Hi, Michael here for Denise Audio, and today I'm talking about our new reverb plugin, Perfect Room 2. Perfect Room 2 is a transparent reverb built to extend the ambience of any sound without adding coloration. Its dynamic room response engine generates a simulated acoustic profile that you interact with in real time to shape your sound. By starting with a mathematically ideal room response, Perfect Room 2 lets you add transparent ambience without resonances, harshness, or awkward shifts in density. It's the perfect blank slate to design any flavor of clean reverb, with flexible controls to shape the essential characteristics of your sound, from fast, tight chambers to expansive simulated cathedrals. I'll go into more detail on the features in a second, but let's look at some audio examples where Perfect Room 2 really shines. First off, I've got some dry, dead-sounding drum overheads that could really use a bit of room to breathe in this mix. With Perfect Room 2, I can add plenty of extra ambience without worrying about introducing harsh reflections when the player hits the cymbals. Let's hear that. I'm really going for that invisible reverb that's nice and natural, so I've kept the length in check with the frequency profile on the darker side, a gentle decay curve, and just a tiny bit of attack time to keep the reflections out of the way of the drum hits. Speaking of attack, this parameter softens the initial phase of the simulated room response for a more gradual onset of the reverb. It's perfect for percussion or anywhere you need to preserve the integrity of the transient. Next up, I've got the acoustic guitar from this track, and for this one, I'm not so much looking for big reverb, but really just a bit of width to help situate the sound in the stereo field. Let's check out that setting. With the length set short, I've tilted the frequency profile to emphasize the guitar's warm low mid-range, giving it a tighter, small chamber sound. With the stereo width maxed, I've got some pleasing difference between the left and right channels, which will remain perfectly coherent in mono, which is super important for this application. Finally, since I've built up some density in the low mids with the frequency profile, I've gone in with the post EQ to shape the overall sound to make sure it's not competing with the dry signal. Let's hear that again. Next up, I have the vocals from the session. I have a great lead vocal and backup harmony, and I really just want to make sure the two voices can blend smoothly without the reverb getting in their way. For this, I've dialed in a longer reverb with Lush modulation and some additional flavor from the halo parameter.
That's your path. Roam into your world like that.
The halo control isolates the higher low frequencies and extends them past the set decay length, creating a lingering spectral effect. You can hear it adding a bit of extra animation to the lows and low mids as the decay rings out. I've kept the attack at 0 for a natural response, but I've introduced a little bit of pre-delay just so I can extend that ambience without letting the decay take up too much space. I've also introduced a bit of the ducking control, which is a gain reduction function on the wet signal that's listening to the dry and the sidechain. This helps me make sure I don't get a level bump in the wet signal when the second vocal comes in. Here's that setting again.
That's your path. Roam into your world like that.
In this mix, I've got the harmony vocal panned a bit right of center, so I decreased the reverb width to get a more focused sound that highlights the blend of the two voices. Listen to how it makes that panning feel less severe without adding too much wet signal.
Roam into your world like that.
Next up, I've got the full mix, and this is sort of a secret weapon with Perfect Room 2. Other reverb plugins can really make you hesitate trying something like this, since they're bringing a lot of sonic character to the table, but Perfect Room 2 is clean enough to handle an entire mix. In this case, I've got some other plugins in my 2-bus chain that I want to hit after my reverb, so I've got Perfect Room 2 inserted on the master fader using the mix control to dial it in. This is going to be a very subtle setting that really shows off just how transparent this reverb can be. The way I have it set up now, the length is so short and the mix is so low that it's a little hard to dial in these small increments. So I'm just going to go ahead and sync the reverb length to an eighth note so I know it's not going to smear across rhythmic divisions in the song. I've focused the frequency profile on the higher frequencies with a pretty linear decay profile, and the result is a subtle, feathery reverb that's just extending a bit of the top-end ambience in this mix and adding a bit of air to the stereo field. I'll toggle it on and off with the bypass control so you can get a sense of what it's doing in this application.
That's your path. Roam into your world like that. Well, time can heal a bleeding wound, but severed limbs are growing back.
If you're looking for a tool that lets you add ambience absolutely anywhere without coloration, Perfect Room 2 offers a new standard of clarity, flexibility, and fidelity. Visit deniseaudio.com to download the free trial, and I'll see you in the next one.